Welcome to today's episode of the Daily Coffee Pro, friends. Today we're talking about the fact that it's not all doom and gloom out there in the coffee industry. Sure, 2020 has presented us with as many and more challenges than we've ever been presented in the coffee industry. But there are some businesses out there that are navigating these times better than most other businesses. And in today's episode, I want to talk about some of the characteristics that all of those business owners that I've spoken to that are in this situation, and I wouldn't say are crushing it. Nobody's crushing it right now, really, compared to how people were crushing it before, but they are surviving and they are finding a way to at least keep the doors open, at best get back to the numbers that they were at pre the pandemic being announced and shutdowns being announced. So what are some of the qualities that all of those business owners have in common? Number one, they are leading proactively. And the only way to lead through something like this is proactively, because the other side of this is leading reactively. And if you want some more information on how to lead proactively, go back through some of the episodes over the last couple of weeks and we go into depth about proactive leadership and why that's important. But they are all proactive leaders. They could see that uncertain times were coming. They had their ear to the ground and they started to move quickly and respond to the times as they felt that they were about to change. The second thing that they all have in common is that as things changed, they were adaptive to their environment. And the reason that they were that way is because of the third thing. They've all done hard shit before. They've all been through adversity with their business. People who haven't had to navigate hard times before don't have the muscles required in your mind and emotionally and like at a spiritual level to be able to navigate, remembering that spiritual doesn't mean religious, but they don't have the muscle memory to know how to navigate the flow of hard times. They don't know how to anticipate the way that people react during hard times. I recently had a conversation with somebody who said that, and this is someone who has historically been quite successful. And he said to me, you know what I've learned is that I've learned how weak my staff are. And somebody who's been through hard times before understands that it's not that people are weak. It's that when people are faced with hard things for the first time, they are shocked. Their system is shocked with being exposed to all their own personal vulnerabilities. And that makes people react in certain ways. So he, being a business owner who had not seen his staff, or he himself has never been through really seriously hard times, got to experience it for himself and his staff, how you react to hard times. The next thing that all of these people had in common was that they were emotionally intelligent. These were people who, because of the adversity that they had had to experience before, had built a complex level, mid to complex level of emotional intelligence that allowed them to be still and navigate their own emotions, whether that required them to take a moment before they made decisions, or whether it meant that they had to allow themselves to experience the trauma as it was happening of what was going on. So if it meant that they had to shut down and they experienced trauma during that, they had the emotional intelligence to allow them to experience that and allow their body to process the trauma, knowing that if they did that, they would be better able to serve their staff and their customers and get on with the business of running a successful business through this. The next thing that all of these successful business owners had in common was that they were able and well versed in having hard conversations. So these were people who didn't talk shit to people, essentially. They understood the importance of talking straight. They understood the importance of saying things as they are. These weren't people who were telling everybody that, hey, everything's going to be fine. Let's just rah-rah positive our way through this. No. People who have been through hard times, adversity, and challenging experiences know that lying to people and being focused on just what's positive without understanding that this moment calls for us to be real and to base every decision that we make and every conversation that we have in really great data and good information. They are the people who were able to rally their teams to understand how to read their situation well and how to prepare themselves for what was coming. So these were people that were able to really align their staff and get their staff in focus. And the reason that this is really important is because it's able to help you assess who are the staff that are not going to be able to survive something like this. Or that's not the way that I wanted to say that. They're not able to survive the stress and navigate the stress that this moment calls in the positions that they previously had. And so what those business owners have had to do is either find different roles for their staff. So people who were previously doing really well in their roles and were hit with massive amounts of stress and trauma either had to be invited to take some leave and get themselves together, or they were put in positions where they took a more behind the scenes role. And great leaders, business owners who were able to navigate these moments, saw that unlike the person who I mentioned before that just decided everybody was weak because they were reacting really poorly to this situation, experienced people saw that people process trauma differently, and therefore I've got to give them the room to get through what they're experiencing right now, and everybody's going to be different with that. And so if you know how to have difficult conversations and say to people, hey, listen, this is what I'm observing about the way that you're experiencing this situation, and we need to discuss what our options are. Now, that's a hard conversation for any leader to have. And a lot of people have been surprised by some of their star employees just falling apart in this situation, either because they're scared or because they have loved ones who have been affected by COVID, or they've been affected by the race riots, a lot of the situations, the uncertainty of their future. And if that's the case, knowing how to have difficult conversations and help your staff get still and get calm and come up with real life solutions is a really important adaptive skill that was demonstrated by every great business that I know in the coffee industry that's still got their doors open. And the last thing that all of them had in common, they all knew that whatever was to come was uncertain, but they were going to survive it. So they all knew that one way or another, they were going to be fine. And fine could mean that they would have to close their business. So they didn't see that closing their business would be a failure, but they were going to do everything in their power to make sure that their business stayed open and that they were going to try and keep on board as many staff as possible. But this was a mindset thing. They knew that their experience would serve them well. They would be adaptive. They would know how to communicate. They would prepare by cutting the fat in their expenses. They would listen to their customers. They would know how to talk to their employees. All of that was fine. But they knew that because they had a mindset, we're going to survive this no matter what. because it comes down to what's really important. There are mitigating factors outside of your business that may force you to close, but they all knew that survival is a different definition to whether my business is open or not. And they're fighting like crazy so that they can have the outcome that they want, but that may not be within their hands. And this is an important part of who is surviving these days and who is not. As I said, they've all got this thing in common, that they have done this kind of thing before. 2020 is just another version, a more amplified version of doing hard things. And they have the inbuilt skills of just knowing how they're going to navigate that. And in a future episode, probably tomorrow actually, we're going to talk about some common mistakes that are going to happen in our industry with the influx of first-time business owners that are entering the industry at a very, very difficult time, and why I think that that's dangerous for us. But I think that this is an exciting time because it's not all doom and gloom out there for all of us. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.